You know, you look at all this right now, it's a whole lot different than it was when we started. A lot of this stuff out here we got to build, and it's kind of neat to be part of it.
It's amazing how all this has grown up.
Yeah. Back when we was in college, there wasn't anything out here. Nothing.
Cornfields. That was all cornfields, I remember. We had one of our early Christmas parties in that restaurant, and there's maybe 20, 25 people.
I doubt there was that many.
Yeah.
The whole company probably didn't have 10 people in it. I remember you told me you were one of the first troop ships going to Africa to engage with Rommel, and you were one of the first ones over in that conflict. Well, my dad was called up in World War II, right after the war started. I think he'd been there about 3 months when he was captured by the Germans and spent the rest of the war in POW camps in Germany. What part of Germany were you in?
Stalin 3B.
Where was that at in Germany?
Is it Furstenberg?
This would have been in Africa?
Yeah.
Oh.
See, it's been so long, I forgot a lot of stuff.
Well, it's kind of.
How could you forget a car like that?
Anytime you get a free car.
You got a gun in your hand.
Yeah.
Dad's always been kind of an entrepreneur. He kind of figured out ways to make money, and he'd just get into it. Before the war, he had a portable roller skating rink, and he would travel around to smaller towns around Bowling Green, Beaver Dam, Scottsville. How much did you charge for that? Do you remember?
I think it was a quarter.
Quarter? Does that count the skates? Was that counting the skates?
Yep.
Pretty good. He had a nightclub set up in the what's now the Lost River Cave.
It looks like they always had a bunch of really good groups in.
Well, I noticed everybody in these pictures had coat and tie on. Everybody was dressed up. There wasn't nobody there that wasn't
like
dressed
us.
up.
Well,
Yeah.
everybody dressed up back
If
then.
you think back to that era, back in the 40s, there wasn't air conditioning, so he was a real popular place to go at night and in the summer, especially when it was nice and cool down the cave. And he brought in some pretty good-sized bands, and he did that after the war, before he got into construction.
When did you start building, like the little homes that you built on Sunrise?
Well, I first bought one that Brooks McIlwain had started and never finished, and I bought it from him, and when they hadn't finished it, that was the first one I ever built.
I went to work on an electrical crew when I was 12. He had that going, and somewhere between the time I was 12 and the time I was about 15, you started and built that Skyline mobile home park for Bob Petrie.
Yeah.
And we worked over there for several years because I lived over there when I was in college.
Yeah, putting in all those utilities. Yeah.
Doing the whole thing. I mean, we graded the concrete, the plumbing, the sewer, blasted. We did it all back then. And then I got to college is where I met Bill.
We would meet in the mornings about an hour before all of our classes and cram for our studies that day. And we did that pretty much the whole time we were in college. Became really close. And then later on, I met his sister.
And then somewhere down the road, you kind of wormed in there and got to dating him.
And he just showed up at the door.
Yeah, right, that was it.
He did,
And
seriously.
then I didn't have any idea what I was going to do to make a living. And Dad said, well, I want to do some development. Why don't Bill and myself and him start a construction company? I said, well, that's fine with me, but I don't know anything about construction. He said, well, I'll teach you. And that's where he came in and started.
I've forgotten that part. Wasn't it just you
Just
and
3 of us.
Buster and Daddy, and then later you hired one helper?
Yeah, it was
Quite a bit later.
quite a bit later.
Yeah, I was thinking it was.
For the first 2 or 3 years, it was just 3 of us.
Yeah.
I remember we hung all those cabinets in there with one of those screwdrivers you do by hand.
A Yankee screwdriver, yeah. Yeah, that was a big.
Yeah.
Glad
Lot
those
of
days are gone.
blisters,
I'm
yeah.
glad those days are gone.
One of the first spec homes we built was Spanish style, and took us well over a year to sell it. So we were really worried that might have been the end of our career.
When we started the company, I mean, we're just like any other 2 guys out of college. You know, we had some ideas, but we never dreamed the company would evolve into what it is today, which is several different areas of trade. All of that kind of came with time, but no, we never had an idea that it had been as successful as we eventually got to be.
I think our success is mostly attributed to doing quality work, and Buster loved doing meeting with people and being in the office, and so he really took the company forward doing that while I was out getting the jobs done.
We don't get all the general construction jobs by any stretch of the imagination, but there's not too many construction jobs of any size that go on in this area that we don't have some of our people working on in one trade or another. When we did the health department, we got together with all the managers and said, we're going to take this thing on days. I said, you know what, y'all established a per day penalty for not getting this thing done. So if you take our days, which we were at 90 days, take that penalty there, put that in the equation, we're now your low bidder. Because the architect said to me, he said, you can't do it in 90 days. I said, you give us a job and watch us. And they gave us a job.
And you did it.
We had really good customers, and we tried to give them the product they wanted in the timeline that they wanted it in. And it was just being honest and doing a good job. Bill is excellent at quality control. I mean, it has to be so-so, or it's going to be done over again.
You know, with all the good employees that we have, and for us to still have our name on it, although we're not doing the work today, I'm really proud that these good people are out there doing good work.
We always knew that we were not always going to be the cheapest. We really didn't want to be the cheapest because we saw too many contractors that were the cheapest, got all the jobs to bid on, but they didn't stick around long because they went broke. So our motto was, we don't care if we get beat by price, but we don't never want to get beat while somebody else does a better job than we do.